Right, let's dive into this deep dive on goal setting. Perfect timing, right? New year, new you, all that good stuff.
It seems like you're ahead of the game already. You sent over a ton of articles and even some personal notes, huh?
Yeah, I've been thinking about, like, really making this year count.
But you know what really stood out to me?
What's that?
This stat that only 8% of people actually achieve their New Year's resolutions. 8%. Kind of discouraging.
8%. Whoa. Yeah, I mean, thinking about it, I have struggled with consistency in the past.
Well, that's exactly what we're going to tackle today. How to beat those odds. Make sure you're in that successful 8%.
I love it. And one of the articles you sent said that writing down your goals makes you 42% more likely to achieve them. That's like a superpower.
Oh, yeah. And there's a cool reason for that. Your brain's reward system.
What, like dopamine and all that?
Exactly. So when you make progress toward a goal, your brain releases dopamine. It's like a little reward, right? And that motivates you to keep going.
So it's not just some self-help mumbo jumbo.
Not at all. Real science.
I like it. Okay, so goals are important. They tap into our brain's reward system. Cool. Now, how do we set those goals? I know you love that SMART framework.
Oh, yeah. SMART is a classic. It stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay, let's break it down. Specific, what's that all about?
Instead of something vague like, I want to get in shape, a specific goal is like, I want to run a 5K in under 30 minutes by June 1st. Clear action, measurable outcome, deadline.
Makes sense. Okay, so S is for specific. M, measurable.
Right, got to track your progress. If it's at 5K, track your mileage, how your speed improves, that kind of thing.
So not just about the end goal, but seeing how far you've come, celebrating those milestones. Right?
Absolutely. And then A, achievable.
So dream big, but be realistic, yeah.
Yeah, got to find that sweet spot. Challenging, but not so much that you give up before you even start.
Right. Okay. R, relevant.
This is where you really got to check in with yourself. Does this goal really matter to me? Does it fit with, my values, my vision for my life?
Love it. No point chasing goals that don't really resonate with who you are.
Mm.
Okay, last one. T, time bound.
Setting a deadline.
Yeah.
Creates urgency, like this is when I'm going to achieve this.
Awesome. All right, so we've got our SMART framework down. Our goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. But what about the actual process of setting those goals? What steps do we take?
Well, your research actually outlines a 7-step process. And the first step is all about reflecting.
Interesting. So we're not just jumping into action, huh?
Yeah.
We're thinking things through first.
Right. Before you set new goals, you got to look back. What happened last year? What went well? What were the challenges? What'd you learn? Like taking inventory.
Great analogy. And that's where those personal notes you sent over come in.
Exactly. Time to connect those general principles to your own experiences.
So what stood out to you from last year, looking at your notes?
Let's dive into that in part 2. It's amazing how those reflections tie into those big picture goal setting ideas, right?
Yeah, it's all starting to click into place. We talked about reflecting on the past year, the good and the bad. What stood out from your notes? What were those moments for you?
Well, you were really proud of sticking to your workout routine for a few months, right?
Yeah.
That's a huge win. It shows you, you can build those healthy habits. Consistency is possible.
It's funny, I remember being so motivated at first, and then things got busy. That initial excitement just poof makes me wonder if that super motivated feeling is even sustainable long term.
That's a great point, and it actually leads us perfectly to step 2.
Wow.
Figuring out your priorities.
So it's not just about setting A and Y goal, it's about picking the right ones. The ones that, I don't know, really matter.
Exactly. The ones you'll actually, fight for, even when you're not feeling that initial motivation. And sometimes that means being honest about what you got to let go of. You can't do everything at once. You mentioned wanting to learn a new language, write a book, A&D travel more, all this year.
Yeah, I do tend to get a little ambitious sometimes.
Those are all great aspirations, but tackling them all at the same time could be overwhelming.
Yeah, I could see that. So how do we decide? How do we figure out which goals actually deserve that top spot?
Think about your values. What's really important to you? Personal growth, creativity, adventure. Once you've got those core values, you can align your goals with them.
Okay, so it's got to be a reflection of who you are deep down. Makes sense. So we've reflected, we've picked our priorities. What's next?
Step 3 is where things get real. Write it down. Putting those goals on paper, in a journal, whatever, makes them tangible.
Like making a contract with yourself, huh?
Yeah.
But why is writing things down so powerful? I mean, I have great intentions, but they often just I don't know, fizzle out.
It's about getting your brain more involved. Writing isn't just passive thinking, you're processing that information, which strengthens like those pathways in your brain, makes you way more likely to follow through.
So it's like you're not just remembering it, you're like embedding it in your mind.
Exactly. There's this Harvard business study that found written goals made people over 30% more successful. That's a lot.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, so we've got our goals written down. There's specific, we're feeling good. Now what? How do those goals become like actions?
That's step 4, making an action plan. This is where we break down each big goal into those smaller, bite-sized steps.
So instead of freaking out about climbing the whole mountain, we focus on the next step right in front of us.
Right. Remember that 5K. Instead of run a 5K, it's find a training plan, get a running buddy, schedule those runs. Little by little, you increase your distance.
I'm starting to get it. It's about taking something huge and making it feel possible one step at a time.
Exactly, like building a house, right? Brick by brick. You wouldn't try to build the whole thing in one day.
Love that. Okay, so we've got our blueprint. Now we got to follow those steps. What's next?
Step 5. This is huge. Accountability. Tell someone about your goals, a friend, family member, whoever you trust. Having that support system. Game changer.
I have heard that having like an accountability partner helps a ton. Why is that?
Well, it's partly about having someone cheering you on, celebrating
Right.
your wins, but it's also about having someone to, nudge you when you get off track.
So someone's got your back, even when you're struggling.
Yeah. Even just saying your goals out loud can really solidify that commitment. It's a promise, not just to yourself, but to them too.
Right, right. Okay, what about step 6?
Step 6 is tracking your progress. Journal, app, whatever works for you, but regularly check in, see how you're doing.
I've tried those habit tracker apps, but honestly, I always forget to update them. Any tips for making that a consistent habit?
It's all about finding a system that clicks for you and making it part of your routine. Visual person, wall calendar, mark off each day. Techie, use an app with reminders, make it fun. Colorful pens, stickers, whatever works.
Okay, so find a system, make it enjoyable. What's the last step?
Step 7,
Uh-huh.
gotta be adaptable. Life throws curveballs, right? Our goals might need to change too. It's about adjusting your plan when you need to without, losing sight of the big picture.
So not being rigid, not giving up when things get tough, more like being flexible.
Exactly. And this is where that reflection from step 1 comes back in. You know your past wins, your challenges. You're better prepared to handle those bumps in the road.
This is all making so much sense. It's like we built this roadmap for success. But one of the things I found most inspiring in your research was those success stories.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Those stories show us that when we really set our minds to something, amazing things happen.
And it's not just those, famous people, those high achievers. It's everyday people who just decided to make a change.
That's what's so powerful, right? It's all about human potential. We can all do incredible things if we're willing to put in the effort.
Okay, let's dive into those stories and see what we can learn. Man, those stories, huh? People achieving their goals, beating the odds. It's really inspiring.
It really is. It shows you what's possible when you, believe in yourself.
Yeah.
And you don't give up, even when it's tough.
Yeah, and like we were saying, it's not just about like the big names, right? It's about everyday people like you and me who they decide to go for it.
And that's, I think, a really important point. We tend to focus so much on that end result,
Yeah.
the success. But it's really about the journey.
The day-to-day stuff, the choices we make, the actions we take.
Exactly. And that actually brings us to some techniques for keeping that momentum going, even when that initial motivation fades a bit.
Because let's be honest, we all hit those slumps, those times when we just don't feel like it.
Oh, totally. That's normal. But the key is having those strategies, the things that help you push through.
So what are some of those strategies? What can we do to, I don't know, keep that fire burning, even when we're feeling a little burnt out?
Well, one really powerful technique is visualization.
Visualization, like what do you mean by that?
It's basically using your imagination to create this vivid picture in your mind of you achieving your goal. So close your eyes, right? Imagine yourself crossing that finish line, feeling that sense of accomplishment.
Okay, I'm picturing it. I like it. But how does just imagining something actually help you do it?
It works on a few different levels. First, it makes your goals clearer, more real, and then it actually starts to prime your brain for success. Creates those neural pathways.
So by visualizing ourselves succeeding, we're kind of training our brains to believe it's possible.
Exactly. And the more we believe it's possible, the more likely we are to actually take those steps, those actions.
That's really cool. So we're using the power of our minds to like create our reality.
Yeah, you got it. And another great strategy is building habits.
Habits, yeah.
Ah.
I always struggle with that, making them stick. What's the secret?
The key is starting small and being consistent. Don't try to like change everything at once. Pick one small habit and do it every single day, even if it's just for a few minutes.
So it's like those small changes, they add up over time.
They really do. It's like, those streams of water that carve out like canyons. It's like that. Over time, those small habits, they create massive change.
And I bet those small wins, like sticking to that habit, that triggers that dopamine release too, right?
Absolutely. It reinforces that whole cycle, makes you want to keep going.
This is really helpful. We've gone from understanding the science of goal setting to creating a plan, and now we've got these awesome techniques for staying motivated.
And it's all about, putting it into action. This deep dive, it's been great, but it's just the beginning.
Yeah, the real work starts now.
Pick one thing, one small step you can take today.
Maybe it's writing down those SMART goals or doing some visualization.
Could be even smaller. Use that 2-minute rule. Take action on something you've been putting off.
It's been awesome talking with you. I'm excited to see what you achieve.
I know you can do it. You've got this.
That's it for this episode of The Deep Dive. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.